Resourceful Designer, episode 142, 10 holiday gift ideas for designers.
Welcome to the Resourceful Designer podcast, offering solutions to streamline your graphic and web design business so you can get back to designing. And now, your host. He has a hard time typing the word design. He keeps transposing the G and the N. Mark Dickout.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy that you've joined me today. In this episode, I'm going to offer you 10 ideas that you may want to add to your holiday gift list that you hand out to friends and loved ones. And in lieu of a resource of the week, I'm going to give you a preview, a little tease into next week's episode, which will be a special announcement. Now, I've had a busy week this week doing a lot of little jobs. I did a social media branding for a podcaster. I had done his podcast artwork almost a year ago, and he wanted some social media branding stuff done. So I took care of that. I also did a pop-up banner for an existing client of mine. They have an event and they needed a pop-up banner design. I did that. I completed a website for an equestrian center, so that was kind of fun, seeing some beautiful photos of horses, as well as a gift certificate for a local DJ who's been a long-standing client of mine. I've done his website and all his handouts that he gives out. Well, he wanted, with Christmas coming up, he wanted some gift certificates to hand out to some people, and he asked me to design those. So those were a few of the things I've been working on. Lots of stuff, busy. I know it normally slows down around the Christmas time, between Christmas and New Year's for me, but so far I haven't seen any decline in the work that's coming in. So that's kind of exciting. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, I'm not going to share a resource of the week this week. Instead, I want to give you a sneak peek into next week's episode of Resourceful Designer. Now, if you've listened to the past few episodes right to the end, when I thank my Patreon supporters, the people who are supporting the podcast, they've become patrons of the show, and they have pledged a certain dollar amount every month to help with the show. At the end of the episodes, I thank them, but for the last couple, I've been teasing that I'm working on something new to better serve the people who are supporting the show. I mean, yes, they are helping the show, they're enjoying the show, but I want to give a little bit more back to them. So what I'm planning is in January, I will be launching the Resourceful Designer Community and Mastermind. Now, I'm not going to go into detail right now, I'll save that for next week's episode, but I will tell you that this community will create what I like to call a fun place for listeners of Resourceful Designer where you can discuss your business, your design business, your freelance business, where you can get advice from fellow designers, where you can share your work and get it critiqued or bounce design ideas off of, and all that fun stuff. I'll also be starting monthly video chats. I tested out a new video platform that I'll be using. I posted a link in the Facebook group this week, and I had a few people join me. Thank you to Elena, Danielle, and Keith for helping me test out this new platform. So I'll be using that video software for the monthly chats as well as mastermind groups. Now I'll have all the details ready to share with you next week. So be sure to tune in. And if you're not already subscribed to the podcast, now's the perfect time so that you don't miss it or any other future episode. What I can tell you now is that access to this new Resourceful Designer community will only be available to patrons of the podcast who pledge $5 per month or more. So yes, it will be a membership community, but what that means is that those that are part of the community are people who are serious about their design business. So you know that the content provided, as well as the advice and conversations, will all be from people that are very serious about growing their business. Now, as I said, I'll go into much more detail in next week's episode. But for now, if you're not already a patron of the show, now's your chance to do so and become a founding member of the new Resourceful Designer community. You can become a patron and support the show. As always, you can still do it for $1 per month, and I much appreciate everybody who does so. But it's a $5 or more pledge that'll grant you access to the community when it opens in January. So if you want to become a supporter of the show and a founding member of the Resourceful Designer community, head on over to resourcefuldesigner.com/Patreon and support the show. And now, 10 holiday gift ideas for designers. It's November, and that means that the holidays are just around the corner. And at the time that I'm recording this, Black Friday, the biggest shopping day of the year is less than a week away. So now's the perfect time if you want to share some gift ideas with family or friends or people that want to get you things. Now's the best time to share it with them so that when Black Friday comes around, they can get the best deal and save some money for themselves. Now, I don't know if you're like me, but every year I dread the question, what do you want for Christmas? Anytime somebody asks me that question, I end up giving them a blank-eyed stare because I really don't know what to say. I mean, throughout the year, anything I need, I just buy it. And yes, there are a few items that I may want, but the thing is I don't necessarily need them. And some of them are not things I really want to ask for. Now, of course, there's also the things that I want that I don't really need, but if I do get, I don't want somebody else to buy them for me. I want to go pick them out myself. So it's not the type of thing that I want to ask for a gift. And of course, there's always the things that I want or that I do need, but they're way too expensive to ask or to suggest somebody get them as a gift. So I never know what to tell anybody. I mean, I always fall back on the old staples. Get me a Toronto Maple Leafs baseball cap. But then my wife or kids will say, but you already have about a dozen of them in the closet. You really need another one. And the answer is no, I don't need another one, but I will appreciate that gift if you give me one. Just like swords. I've mentioned before on the podcast that I have a huge sword collection. I've got close to 30 swords in my house. I've been collecting them since I was a teenager. And I have several in my office here. I have a whole bunch more in my rec room. But it's almost a personal thing. All but one I purchased myself. And I know what I like, what I want. And if I was to get one, I'd probably want to pick it out myself. Although I must say, one of my favorite swords is the one that my wife gave me for our 15th wedding anniversary. She bought me a beautiful blade that I have displayed on top of my desk here. And it's probably my favorite out of all my swords. But again, it's something that I don't really need. I don't need another sword to display. So this got me thinking about what can we ask for that would be related to our business that can help us out, something that's useful. A sword is not useful. Yes, a baseball cap does help cover my head, but as I said, I've already got about a dozen Toronto Maple Leaf baseball caps. I really don't need another one. So what sort of gift ideas would be useful while also not being too expensive that you wouldn't mind asking for? So I put together this list of 10 items that you may be interested in. Item number 1 is a Luna display. Now, Luna Display is brought to you by the team behind AstroPad. Now, if you're not sure what AstroPad is software that allows you to mirror your Mac display on your iPad. So sorry if you're a Windows user, this doesn't really apply to you, but AstroPad came out several years ago. I've had it since the beginning, and I use it to mirror my iMac screen on my iPad. I'm not an illustrator. I don't draw. I've said that before on the podcast. So I've never bothered getting a drawing tablet, a Wacom, or whatever other brands there are out there. But when this came out, and it was very inexpensive, I think it was $20-some at the time. I don't know if the prices changed or not. But when I bought it, it allowed me to turn my iPad into a drawing tablet to mirror my iMac screen. So what I use it for is in Photoshop, if I have to go in and say I had a photo of a person and it's on a certain background and I have to isolate that person, get rid of the background. Well, I can go in with my mouse and kind of clean up all around that person, but it's a lot easier to do with a stylus. So now I can use my iPad and a nice stylus that I purchased from a company called Adonit, and I can go in with the stylus and touch things up that way. So anyways, that's AstroPad. And if you're interested to learn more about that, visit astropad.com. But what I wanted to share today as my number one item gift for designers is Luna Display, which is a new hardware solution developed by the makers of AstroPad that turns your iPad into not a mirror display, but a true wireless second display for your Mac. It's available in both a USB-C or a Mini DisplayPort device. It's very, very small. You plug it into your computer, and within seconds, your iPad becomes a second monitor. Not a mirror, but a second. So you can put it up next to your computer and it gives you that extra real estate, that extra screen space that every designer can use. So they started this. It was a Kickstarter campaign, which came out about a year ago. Well, now Luna Display is finally available for sale. And if you're interested in checking it out, again, you need to be a Mac user. And these are great for anybody that has a laptop. because a laptop, we know that the screen's not that big. So having that extra screen real estate is great. So if you're interested, visit lunadisplay.com and see if it's something that you may want to get or ask for as a gift. Now, item number 2 is an Amazon Echo Dot. Now, technically, any Amazon Echo device would work, but I'm saying the Dot because that's the one I have. I have one sitting on my desk in my office right now. I bought it back on Amazon Prime Day, which is Amazon's big yearly sale. They have it's their biggest sale of the year. And I actually bought it because I wanted to test some things out with the podcast. I developed an Amazon skill for the podcast so that you can listen to Resourceful Designer over an Amazon device. But I had no way to test that. So when I saw them come on sale, and I think it was like $29 on Prime Day, I purchased one just to test out the podcast. It was kind of an expense I was doing for the podcast. But I actually love this thing. I keep it on my desk, and I use it for simple things like calculations. If I have to calculate something, it's a lot easier to just ask and get the answer. Finding answers to simple questions. It's great for definitions. If I'm reading something and I'm not quite sure what the word means, just ask for the definition and I get it. I also love it for just setting reminders or timers. Say I think of something and I say, well, I got to finish what I'm doing now, but when I'm done this, I'm going to call such and such a client. I just tell the lady in the box here, Lexi, I'll use that name because she won't activate for Lexi, but it's close. I'll just tell Lexi to remind me at a certain time or remind me in a certain time. So either remind me in 90 minutes to phone Bill or remind me at 3 p.m. to phone Bill. And of course, there's stuff, I'll be reading an article or something and it'll mention an old song or an artist. And I'll say, wow, I haven't heard that song or that person in a while. I can just ask her to play that music and it'll start playing. Now, when I purchased mine, there was a special deal and I also got a smart plug that came with it. And I've plugged this into a wall outlet in my office, and I've got a floor lamp. It's a lamp. It comes up and it has 3 separate light bulbs on it. And I've plugged this into this device. So now, especially at this time of year where it's getting dark earlier and earlier, and by the end of the day, my office is really dark. I can't even see my keyboard. And when I say the end of the day, I'm talking it's sunset here now, I think is before 4:30. So by the time 5 o'clock comes around, my office is dark. So instead of getting up, or I don't like having my desk lamp on sometimes, just the way it lights stuff up. I just want to be able to see things in my office enough. So now I can just say, Lexi, turn on the office lights. And the light turns on. Yes, before I can get up, physically go over and turn it on, or I can get up and go to the wall switch and turn it on. But it's just convenient. I could be working and realize, it's getting kind of dark. Lexi, turn on the office lights. And the lamp comes on. Now, I know what you may be saying if you're a Mac user or even an Android, and you could say, well, I've got Siri, or I've got, I can't even remember what the Android, I think it's Google Home, or I forget what the term is used. And don't get me wrong, I love Siri. I use it all the time. But I find that the Amazon version, this Lexi, as I'll call her, is, much more friendly and intuitive. Plus, she usually has answers that, for some reason, it just either Siri can't find or it just makes it harder to find on Siri. Often when you'll ask Siri a question, she'll reply with, here's what I found about that topic, and then you have to go clicking through things. Well, with Lexi on the Amazon Echo Dot that I have, there's no screen or anything like that, so she actually gives you an answer. Here, let me show you. Hey Siri, what's the 2018 color of the year?
My web search turned something up for what's the 2018 color of the year. Have a look.
Well, I guess that was useful. She's listed a few different websites here that tell me what color of the year it is, and I can scroll through these and click on them. Or I can say, Alexa, what's the 2018 color of the year?
The only 2018 Pantone color of the year is ultraviolet.
And there you go. I got the answer right away. So since I got this device, I find I'm asking Lexi a lot more stuff than Siri. Even for stuff like reminders or timers, I use Siri all the time. Like if I'm in the kitchen and I'm cooking and I need to start a timer, Siri, start a timer for whatever. But I just find that Lexi here does a much cleaner job. So anyways, I think that the Amazon Echo Dot, which is very small. It's about the size, if you know what the size of a hockey puck is, it's about the size of a hockey puck. And it just sits on my desk here. Well, I think one of these would be a great addition to your office. Now, if you want to check them out, I do have an affiliate account with Amazon, so I'll give you an affiliate link here, and that's resourcefuldesigner.com/Amazon Echo. And what that means is if you use that link and you do decide to purchase, I will make a small commission. I just want to be upfront with that. But that's not why I'm sharing it. I actually love mine, and a lot more so. I bought it for $29 thinking, okay, I'm going to use this just to test out the podcast stuff, but I end up that I'm using it on more and more these days than I ever thought I would. Now, item number 3, following along the same suits as the Amazon Echo, is Amazon Prime. If you're not already an Amazon Prime member, you really should be. Prime membership gives you access to Prime Video that lets you watch thousands of movies and television series, including some Prime original series like Jack Ryan that dropped just a few months ago, which was amazing, by the way. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you watch Jack Ryan. Well, you get Prime Video with your membership. You also get Prime Reading, and this is one of the things I have a little contention with. Prime Reading is only available, as far as I know, to the US. It's not available to me in Canada. But what Prime Reading is it gives you exclusive, free, or discounted ebooks. You get to choose from a section of newer books every month. They put out, I forget, 6 or 8 books that you can choose one from, and you get to keep it. And then you can get discounts on other books. But that's, I think, US only. I don't have that here in Canada. Well, maybe one day it'll come. We didn't have Prime Video in Canada a couple of years ago, and it came. So maybe the reading will come eventually. There's also Prime Music, which I'm happy to say is available in Canada, that comes with your membership. And that gives you access to hundreds of thousands of songs and artists and that. So you can access your music and create playlists and all that on any of your devices, including your Amazon Echo device. I've done that from time to time. I'm not a big listener of music, but there have been times where I've been doing something monotonous that doesn't really require a lot of thinking. And I've asked Lexi to just play some soft instrumental music or play a certain artist I haven't heard for a while. And that's all done through Prime Music. And of course, the main reason that Prime was invented was for the fast, free shipping on over 100 million items that are on sale on Amazon. The saving on shipping alone are worth the price of membership, in my opinion. Since I've been a Prime member, I think for 3 years now, and when I got my membership here in Canada, the only thing they had is the free shipping. We didn't have music, we didn't have video, we didn't have any of the other perks, which now they're slowly adding on. But just the free shipping alone was worth the price because I saved so much by buying stuff on Amazon. And as a Prime member, it gets to you within usually 2 days. I've heard people now, if you're close to a hub, I've heard people place an order in the morning and have their package delivered that afternoon. Now, where I live, that's not feasible, so it's usually about 2 days I get my packages. Now, the other great thing about Amazon Prime is you can save money if you have stuff that you purchase on a regular basis. What you do is you set up a subscription for those things, and they actually give you a discount. I can't remember exactly what it is. I think it's 10%. You save 10% if you set something up as a subscription. And what that does is it's useful for things like, say, toilet paper or laundry detergent or stuff that you use on a regular basis that you're going to run out of. And what you do is you tell Amazon how often you need it. How often do you need to order a pack of toilet paper? Is it every 2 weeks? Is it once a month? Is it every 2 months? Same thing with laundry detergent. If you know like how often, if you go once every 3 weeks to buy a bottle of laundry detergent, if you have a lot of kids, that might be feasible. Maybe it's every 2 weeks, who knows? But what you do is you set it up as a subscription, you save money because of the discount, you tell Amazon how often you want this delivered, and then it just shows up at your door. You never have to worry about running out. It's just when the time comes, when you're getting close, oh, there it is. It's on your doorstep, and you keep on going. So subscriptions are another great reason to have Amazon Prime. And I believe now it's still less than $100 for Prime, I believe. So it's feasible to ask it as a gift from a family member, and they can take advantage of it as well. My son and my daughter and my wife, I have my Prime membership, and even though my son and my daughter are away at school, they'll often send me a link and say, hey, Dad, can you order this for me? Or whatever, I'd like one of these. Can you find it on Amazon for me? So they come in really handy. Anyways, if you are interested in becoming a Prime member, if you're not already, once again, I said I have an Amazon affiliate, so If you sign up by going to resourcefuldesigner.com/Amazon Prime, that'll redirect you to the page that gives you all the information. And if you do sign up, once again, I make a small commission on that. Now, item number 4 that makes a great gift for designers is a whiteboard, but not just any whiteboard, a whiteboard with a dot grid on it. Now, whiteboards are the staple in many offices. I know many designers use them, including myself. They're easy to use, they're highly visible, and a great way to organize your day and your business activities, your to-do lists, whatever you want to write on them. But if you're anything like me, your whiteboard looks like, say, the top left-hand corner of your whiteboard where you start writing. Everything is nice and straight and nice and tidy. But as you start looking and moving down the board towards the bottom right, the writing and the list and everything gets off skewed and it's no longer straight. The lists and columns are all crooked and it just looks messy. Now, maybe you're lucky and you're not one of those people, but I've always been. You give me a whiteboard or a blackboard or a big sheet of paper, I can guarantee my sentence will start off nice and straight, but it's going to start drooping as I keep going. Well, my son recently bought himself a whiteboard that he put up on the wall in his room, and it has a dotted grid on it. Imagine like a sheet of grid paper, but instead of lines, it would be a dot at each intersection. And when I saw this, I thought, what a brilliant idea. The dots are printed directly on the whiteboard in, as I said, a grid pattern, but they're very, very light. So they're visible when you're up close writing on it. But if you stand back, you can see them, but they're not distracting. They're just enough to say that you can see there's something there. But what they do is they help you keep everything aligned. So as you're writing, you can follow these. And instead of having, like, say, a line, because you can get whiteboards that have lines on them. But if you want to do other stuff, those lines can be distracting. Well, these grids will help you keep things in lines, keep your columns and your rows straight. And they're also great for doing any sort of a drawing or mock-up because you've got these grid that you can follow. You want to draw a perfect square, you just connect the dots and you know you have a perfect square. So when I saw my son's whiteboard, I thought, wow, this is brilliant. Now, I don't need one of those because I've already got a whiteboard, but if I ever need to replace mine, I'm definitely going to get one that has a dotted grid on it. Now, my son told me that he picked his up at Walmart, but in case you want to know what I'm talking about, I will have a link in the show notes for this episode pointing to ones on Amazon that you can get to. And as I said that, all links, everything I'm talking about today, there will be links in the show notes, which you can get to by visiting resourcefuldesigner.com/142. All the links to all these products can be found there. So now, item number 5 is daylight light bulbs. One of the big benefits of working from home is not having a commute. But on the flip side, not having a commute does have some drawbacks in that people that work from home spend less time outdoors. And therefore, since you're spending less time outdoors, you have less exposure to the very much needed vitamin D that you get from being in the sun, especially in the winter months when it gets dark earlier. I mentioned earlier that sunset here right now is before 4:30. And over the course of the winter, it's going to get even earlier than that. So by the time I'm done working for the day, it's already dark out. So just like many people during the winter months, you're not getting the needed vitamin D that your body requires. Now, a lack of vitamin D can cause all sorts of health issues, and I'm not going to go into all of that. There are many, many benefits to vitamin D, just to brighten your mood. There's a whole mentality thing behind it, that having some vitamin D makes you happier and such. And yes, you can take vitamin supplements and pop some pills to help you with your vitamin D. And if that's what your doctor recommends, great. But another option is to equip your office with light bulbs that mimic daylight. So there are various light bulbs out there that do produce the right spectrum of light to produce some vitamin D. Now, they're not in huge quantities. It's not the same as being out in the sun, but it can help you get through those dreary days of winter months. Now, there's also the option of getting a special UV lamp that you can put on your desk that actually shines the right amount of UV light on you, and you can turn it on. They suggest you turn it on for 15, 20 minutes at a time, whatever. But even just replacing the regular light bulbs in your room with special daylight bulbs that do create a little bit of the right UV spectrum to help you generate some vitamin D can help you. So that may be something you want to ask for, is special light bulbs for your office that'll help produce less strain on your eyes, that'll help you feel better, give you that much needed vitamin D, and just create a better ambiance in your room. Now, I will put one word of caution here. If you are somebody who works and relies heavily on color, if you're doing color correction, if you do photography and your monitor is calibrated, changing the light bulbs in your room may affect the colors on your monitor, so be wary of that. It may simply be a matter of recalibrating your monitor afterwards, or it may mean buying a different light bulb that has a slightly different light spectrum so that you don't get that variation in color. So be careful of that, but daylight light bulbs are a great idea for a gift. Now, item number 6 on my list is a monitor stand. Now, way back in episode 118 of the podcast, titled Minimizing Back and Neck Pain from Long Days Designing, I explained how the optimal height for your computer monitor is to have the top edge of your screen level with your eyes. Now, I'm 6'2", or at least I used to be. I think I'm shrinking. But for the purpose of the podcast, I'll say I'm 6'2". Now, I have a 27-inch iMac, and at my height, when the iMac is on my desk, I'm looking down at my computer. Even with this big monitor on it, I'm still looking down. And after a long day working, it gets hard on the neck, constantly looking down like that. Now, to help prevent that, for the longest time, what I did was I put my iMac on top of an old dictionary I had. I mean, after all, who looks through paper dictionaries anymore? You can ask your phone, you can ask your Amazon Echo device. You could look it up on your computer. So very few people actually flip through a paper dictionary. So it was great. I stuck it underneath my iMac and it lifted it up enough. But it looked messy. It looked tacky. It didn't look professional. And then I decided to buy an actual monitor stand for my computer. And I raised it up, and it's actually higher on this stand than it was on the dictionary. And what a difference raising the computer made. I immediately noticed less strain on my neck. And it was just overall was more comfortable to work at. Now, with this stand, not only is my computer now at the right height, but it looks good, and it actually provides me some extra storage space here. The one I bought is the Vivo height adjustable monitor stand, and it's specially made for iMacs. It's the exact same metal and color as the computer, so it almost looks like it's an extension of the computer. And the way it works is inside, it's like a box, and there's an adjustable shelf inside, and the foot from the iMac computer actually goes inside the box and sits on this shelf. So you can adjust the level and adjust the computer as high as you want it. Now, I have it at the highest level. And what that does is on the front of this box, there's actually a kind of a grill that attaches. You can screw it in, but there's also magnets. And I just have it attached there via magnets that come with it. So I can pull this front grill off and it creates a little storage area. Now inside there, I have one of my backup drives is in there. I also keep my computer glasses that I have are in there, as well as a couple of USB flash drives and some other stuff. And then I can close that and it helps keep things tidy. And if you've heard me before, you know that I don't keep a tidy desk normally. So anything that helps me in that realm is welcome. So I love this thing. It looks good. But it's, of course, not the only option. There are tons. When I was searching for something, I saw lots of great options for computer stands or monitor stands to raise your monitor up off the desk. So that would make a great gift that not only will make your office look good, but it can help you prevent back strain and neck strain and make your space look a little bit more professional. Now, I'll include a link in the show notes to the one that I actually purchased if you're curious about that one. But as I mentioned, there's a whole bunch of different variations, all sorts of different materials you can get depending on your computer or whatever. But raising your monitor up so that the top of the screen is even with your eyes is the optimal space to have it. Now, number 7 on my list, going along the similar note to the last one, is a stand for your phone or tablet, or both, possibly. Now, I have one of these on my desk. And it's funny, I actually bought it on a whim. A couple of years ago on Amazon Prime Day again. They had this deal where this stand, it was one of those flash sales. I think it was only on for like an hour or so. And it was 90% off, 92 or 93. It was some odd number. And the sale only lasted an hour or something like that. And I ended up picking this up for $3, and with my Prime membership, it was free shipping. So I paid something like $3 for this stand. And again, I bought it more on a whim. I said, oh, this is kind of cute, $3, why not? I was already ordering a couple of other things, so I just added it onto my order. But you know what? I love this thing. I use it mostly for my phone, but I have used it for my iPad before. Now, this one here, the one I have, it's just a small thing. It's made out of metal. It's black. And what I do is it holds my iPhone at the right level so that whenever I'm sitting at my desk, the screen is facing me. And what I find is this actually reduces distractions, surprisingly enough. And what I mean by that is when my phone beeps because I have a notification of some sort, instead of having to pick up my phone and look at it, or if the phone was just sitting flat on my desk, having to bend over and read what was on the screen, I can just avert my eyes, look at the phone, see what's there, see if it's something I have to deal with right away. If it's not, then I just ignore it and go right back to work. I don't have to do anything. It can take a split second for me to look at the notification and then get back. And that's why I love it. It's facing me. So if somebody texts me or I get a weather alert or whatever, I don't have to be distracted. I can just look, see what it is, go back, avert my eyes back to my screen, and that's it. Now, yes, of course, I do suggest you actually turn off notifications so that you don't get those distractions, but there are certain times where you need those notifications on. And having a stand like this, it's one of those little extra things. Plus, it looks clean. You always know where your phone is because it's always in that stand. Now, once again, just like the monitor stands, there are tons of variations of these. I mean, some of them are made of plastic, some are metal like mine. When I was looking, there were some beautiful wooden ones. Absolutely gorgeous. So if this is something you think you'd enjoy, and as I said, I've used it for my iPad as well. Put it up and be able to watch something on the iPad while I was working. So very, very handy. And it makes a great gift idea. Just ask them for something that would suit your office. If your office is mostly wood furniture, get yourself a little wooden stand. Or if you're more modern, you may want to go with something plastic or metal. But they're not expensive. You can pick some of these things up for less than $10. So great gift idea for kids to get their parents. Or if you belong to some sort of group or that and has a secret Santa, you may be able to ask, say, oh, I would love some sort of stand to put my phone on or that on my desk. And that would be great. Now, item number 8 on my list is Pantone color books. Now, do I really have to explain this one? If you're a designer, and especially if you design anything for print, you should have your own Pantone color guides. Now, I prefer the fan books myself to the chips and the other things. And the one I recommend is the Color Bridge set. Yes, it's $300 US, which is the most expensive gift, by the way, that I'm recommending today. But it is worth the expense. And it may be a little bit much to ask for from friends or some family, but who knows? Maybe you're the type of family that's very generous in their gifts. Well, Pantone color books might be the perfect gift for you. Because in my opinion, it's a must for every serious designer. Now, what I like about the Color Bridge set is it shows you the Pantone colors in both coated and uncoated paper. And it shows you the difference between the spot color and their CMYK equivalents. It also, the guide tells you what the hex colors and the RGB values for those colors are as well. So it's very useful for print design, for the CMYK, for spot colors, as well as application design and websites and all that. Because the hex values are there, you can look through and say, well, I'm going to use this color on the website. And I know if they decide to print business cards or whatever, we can follow the same color palette across all their branding. So Pantone color books, any one you get will really help you out. They do have some beginner guides that don't have all the colors in them. But if you're going to invest, I suggest you invest in one that does have all the colors. You might want to save a little bit of money and just get one of the sets that's just coated paper or just uncoated paper. But I like the Color Bridge set. That's the one I have because it has both coated and uncoated. And if you're not used to print design, you'd be amazed at how the coating on a paper can affect the color. There's some times where you'll look at one Pantone color on coated paper and look at the exact same Pantone color on uncoated paper, and you will notice a significant difference. It's just the way the ink plays with the paper. On a coated paper, ink tends to sit on top of the paper. With an uncoated paper, it sinks into the paper, and it affects the way the color looks. So anyways, number 8 on my list was a Pantone color books. Now, number 9 on my list is, again, going back to your phone and your devices, and that's a wireless charging station. This is another great gift idea to ask of friends and family, to get you a charging station for your wireless devices. Now, of course, your wireless devices have to be able to charge wirelessly. In my case, I don't. I have an iPhone 6S here, and it does not charge that way. I need to plug it in. So getting one for myself or asking for one wouldn't be feasible for me. But when I do upgrade my phone, I would love to get one of these. Now, the thing is a lot of people have them on their night table, so when they go to bed, they can throw their phone and sometimes their watch, if they have, say, an Apple Watch, they'll throw it on there so that it charges overnight. But it might also be nice to have one on your desk so that at the end of the day, if you're going to go out, say for an evening or something like that, you know your phone is fully charged at the end of the day. Now, once again, there are many great variations for these. You can get them in different materials, different colors, different sizes. Just make sure whatever you get is compatible with the phone or the device that it is you want to charge. And because of the big variation in materials and sizes and all that, that also means that they come in various price ranges. You can pick up wireless charging stations for under $20, and you can also pick some up that are hundreds of dollars, depending on what you want to spend and what you want it to look like. So maybe suggest a specific one that you've seen, or just suggest a budget range and have somebody go out and buy one for you. Now, the last item I want to mention is having a second monitor for your computer. Now, the first thing I talked about was the Luna display, which does create a second monitor from your iPad. But maybe you don't have an iPad, or maybe you want something bigger than an iPad for your second display. If you don't want to go the Luna display mode, then a second monitor is a huge boon for any design office. I only got my second monitor about 6 months ago. And I got it from a friend of mine. He had this extra monitor he was getting rid of, and he was going to go drop it off at some store that sells secondhand stuff, just give it to them. And I asked him, I said, well, if you're just going to do that, do you mind if I take it? And he said, no, go ahead, have it. So I brought it home. I set it up. I had to buy a cable because I didn't have the right cable for it. But once I bought the cable and set it up, I realized just how much I'd been missing out for all those years when I was just working on my iMac. And now I can't even imagine how anybody that's working on a desktop, or not a desktop, a laptop, anybody working on a MacBook or any sort of laptop, how you do it with such a small screen. Having a second monitor gives me so much more desktop real estate. I normally work, I set up my email on the second monitor, I put my web browser there, and I work on my main monitor. Now, I mentioned earlier I have a 27-inch iMac. Well, the second monitor here is, I think it's a 19-inch monitor. So it's much smaller than my iMac, but it's perfect for what I need. I'd always thought that I'd want another 27-inch to go next to it, but when I got this one, I says, well, beggars can't be choosers. I'll use what I get, and I love it. As I said, I keep my email there, which makes it very easy. Like say a client emails me back changes to their website or additions to a brochure or something I'm working on. I could open up the email on the second monitor and then have the main project open on my main computer. And it makes it really easy to do all those things. Just move my mouse back and forth. I can still copy and paste from one to the other. And it is so much more convenient than switching back and forth between programs or trying to make both Windows, email, and the program fit on my one screen. Now, it's also great if I'm trying to learn something, say watching a YouTube video or some other tutorial or reading a step-by-step instructions on something. I could set it up on the second monitor and then have the main program running on my iMac and not be distracted. I also love it when I'm working on websites, especially if I'm working, say, in the back end of WordPress, doing something in Divi, or if I have to do any coding, which I don't do very much these days, but when I have to do coding, I'll have, say, the website open in one monitor. I'll have the browser with the website there, and then I'll be working on changes. And then as I'm refreshing it, I can see those changes on the other monitor. So again, very, very convenient. Now, I spent 12 years working with only my iMac. And during that time, I kept thinking, it would be really nice to have a second monitor, but it's not something I really need. But I can tell you that now that I've had it, and it's only been about 6 months, now that I've had a second monitor, I can guarantee you, if something happens to this one, I will be immediately going out to replace it. Now that I've experienced what this is like, I will never work without a second monitor again. And keep in mind that your second monitor doesn't have to be an expensive monitor. It doesn't have to be calibrated. It doesn't have to have all sorts of special bells and whistles, because that's all stuff you do on your main monitor. The second one is just extra real estate. So you don't have to go spend hundreds of dollars. You can buy one that's very inexpensive. I looked on Amazon just for the fun of it, and you can buy monitors for under $100. And they would be just as useful as buying one of those expensive 4K ones. You don't need the high resolution or any of that stuff. Just having a second monitor is good enough. And that was my 10th idea. So just to go over those one more time. Number 1 was the Luna display. Number 2 was an Amazon Echo. Number 3 was Amazon Prime. Number 4 was a whiteboard, but one with grid dots. Number 5 was daylight light bulbs to get your daily dose of vitamin D. Number 6 was a monitor stand. Number 7 was a phone or tablet stand. Number 8 was Pantone color books. Number 9 was a wireless charging station. And number 10, a second monitor. Now, these are just a few gift ideas that you can ask for Christmas or holidays or whatever it is you're celebrating. Some of them, like the Pantone color books, depending on which one you get, may be a couple of $100s. And some of them, like the phone stand, you can get for $10. So a wide price range here of ideas that you may want to ask when the next time somebody asks you, what do you want for Christmas? Now, I would love to know if there's anything I didn't mention that is design related that you are asking for as a holiday gift. Please let me know by leaving a comment for this episode at resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 142. And don't forget, if you do want links or to see any of the items I'm talking about, all links to everything I talked about will be available on the show notes for this episode at, once again, resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 142. Now, this episode's running a little bit long, so I'm going to skip the question of the week, but that doesn't mean I don't want to hear from you. If you have a question you'd like me to answer on a future episode of the podcast, please visit resourcefuldesigner.com/feedback and submit your question. Now, before I go, I want to share another great iTunes review I received. This one comes from Odessa Vox from the USA, and it simply says, "Awesome podcast. I was searching for graphic design podcasts, and I'm really happy to have found this one. It's so fun to listen to and has helped me in many different aspects of my business that I needed improvements on. I haven't been disappointed. Thanks for an awesome podcast." Well, thank you very much for that lovely review. It's so much fun reading all of these things. It makes me feel good for what it is I'm doing. You want to leave a review for the podcast, you can do so by visiting resourcefuldesigner.com/iTunes, which will redirect you to the iTunes store in your country where you can leave a review for the podcast. Now, as always, I want to thank everybody who is currently supporting Resourceful Designer on Patreon and reminding you that next week's episode will be a special announcement to the new Resourceful Designer community, which will be available to everyone who is a Patreon supporter of the show at the $5 per month or more level. Make sure you don't miss that episode. If you're not already subscribed to the podcast, I suggest you do so that you are notified right away when that episode comes out. But it should be hitting your feeds next Monday. But if you want to jump the gun and make sure that you are one of the founding members of the Resourceful Designer community, head on over to resourcefuldesigner.com/Patreon, that's Patreon, and start your pledge today. So that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in and sticking on with me, listening to these 10 holiday gifts ideas. I hope something from it proves useful for you. Until next time, I am Mark DeCote, wishing you all the best with your graphic design business, and as always, reminding you to stay creative.
Thanks for listening to the Resourceful Designer Podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com.